everyone, and welcome to the Forget Me Not Project podcast. My name is Sage, and I'm one of the founders of the Forget Me Not Project.
Hi everyone, I'm Lily, one of the hosts of the podcast.
And I'm Ivy, another host. We're super glad you're joining us today. This podcast is something we've been very excited to create because it gives us a chance to talk about dementia, a topic that affects millions of families around the world, but often isn't talked about enough.
We're really excited to start this podcast and share what we've been learning. Over the past few months, we've been researching dementia, learning about the science behind it, and also thinking about how it impacts people and families in everyday life. Through this podcast, we hope to share what we've discovered and help make these conversations more open and accessible.
Before we start, we want to make something very clear. We are not medical professionals. Everything we talk about today comes from research and educational sources, but it shouldn't replace professional medical advice. So if you have any medical concerns or questions, please make sure to talk to a qualified healthcare professional or a trusted adult.
Now that we've covered that, let's start by talking a little bit about the project behind this podcast.
The name Forget-Me-Not comes from the forget-me-not flower, which symbolizes remembrance, memory, and enduring connection. Across many cultures, the flower represents the idea that even when memories fade, the meaning and love behind them remain. This idea is really at the heart of our project. Through our work, we hope to let every memory bloom. Each member of the project chooses a flower name, and together we represent a garden of memories, unique on our own but more impactful as a whole.
The Forget Me Not Project is a youth-led initiative dedicated to raising awareness about dementia and supporting research. We started this project because we believe that education and empathy can make a real difference for not only the people diagnosed, but also their families, caregivers, and communities. Beyond this, we've seen how there is truly a disparity in knowledge about dementia.
It's true. After polling a few randomly selected middle school students, their consensus on the question, "What is dementia?" was, and I quote, "the memory forgetting things that old people get." Their parents did slightly better with, "It's when you can't remember things, but I can't really tell you more."
Now let's get into today's topic. In this episode, we'll give a general overview of dementia, what the term means, the different types it can include, how it affects people, and the kinds of treatments, research, and care that exist today.
We'll also talk about the human side of dementia, how families experience it, how caregivers provide support, and why understanding and patience from communities matters so much. And we hope that by sharing this information, we can encourage more people to learn about dementia, support those affected by it, and provide families with helpful resources.
So what is dementia? When people hear the word dementia, they often assume it refers to one singular disease, but that's not actually the case. Dementia is more of a general umbrella term that covers a variety of conditions affecting memory, thinking, behavior, and daily life. To give you a sense of how widespread it is, the World Health Organization approximated 55 to 57 million cases worldwide in 2021. Some of the more common types include Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, and Lewy body dementia, but we won't go into all the details in this episode. Make sure to tune into our future episode for an in-depth dive on these types and more.
Focusing on Alzheimer's alone, the CDC estimated that 6.7 million older adults had Alzheimer's in the United States in 2024, and that number was expected to double by 2060. But these numbers aren't just statistics. They reflect real lives. Each case represents a person navigating the changes dementia brings. Daily routines, relationships, and even simple interactions are all affected, showing just how far-reaching its impact truly is.
To understand why dementia has such a wide-ranging impact, it helps to know about how the brain works. To put it simply, our brains rely on billions of neurons sending signals back and forth. These signals control everything, from our memories to how we move, think, and feel. When brain cells become damaged or die, the communication system in the brain starts to break down. Over time, this leads to symptoms like memory loss, confusion, and difficulty completing everyday tasks. Key signs of dementia.
Genetics also plays a role. Some types of dementia can run in families. Certain lifestyle factors like health, diet, exercise, and sleep can also impact the likelihood of developing dementia. And of course, age is the biggest risk factor. As people get older, dementia becomes more common. Other factors include having Down syndrome or experiencing serious head injuries, which can increase the risk of dementia.
Common symptoms of dementia include difficulty communicating or finding the right words, trouble solving problems or making decisions, confusion about time or place, and noticeable changes in personality or mood.
For example, someone with dementia might struggle to follow a conversation, get lost in places they used to know well, or have difficulty remembering recent events. Some people also experience changes in behavior, such as becoming more anxious, withdrawn, or frustrated.
However, it's important to remember that normal aging, or senility, is not the same as dementia. Everyone forgets things sometimes, like misplacing keys or forgetting a name. But dementia is a brain disease caused by actual damage to brain cells. It's not just a natural part of getting older. If you go back 40 or 50 years, senility was the catch-all term. It comes from the Latin senex, meaning old man. Back then, the general vibe was something like, you get old, you lose your keys, you get confused, and that's just what happens. It framed cognitive decline as an inevitable part of aging. Like getting gray hair or wrinkles, we just assumed the brain dried up eventually.
Today, we don't really use senility in a medical sense anymore because it's too vague and a bit dismissive. It treats a serious health issue like a natural birthday present nobody asked for. Unlike the idea of senility, dementia is not a normal part of aging. It's caused by physical damage to the brain, cells actually dying or connections being severed. Another important thing to understand is that dementia develops over time. It usually starts with mild symptoms that can easily be overlooked. In these stages, somebody may simply seem more forgetful than usual. However, as the condition progresses, the symptoms can begin to interfere more with daily life. For instance, people may need help with tasks they once handled easily, like managing medications, paying bills, or keeping track of appointments. In later stages, dementia can significantly affect a person's independence, making everyday activities like eating, dressing, or personal care more challenging.
So, if you forgot where you parked this morning, don't worry. You're probably not in trouble. In normal aging, you forget a name, but remember it an hour later. You might lose your glasses, but you can retrace your steps to find them. With dementia, it's less about forgetting the name of the movie, and more about forgetting that you saw a movie at all, or losing the ability to follow the plot. It's the difference between slowing down and losing the map. The baseline is that we've moved away from the word senile, because it implies there's nothing we can do, and that it's just the way it is. By using the term dementia, we acknowledge that these are specific medical conditions that deserve research, treatment, and targeted care.
If you're noticing things in a loved one that feel like more than just senior moments, don't just chalk it up to age. Talk to a professional. There's a lot more support out there than there used to be, and with many diseases, the sooner the better.
Now a bit of history. The first major discovery related to dementia was in 1906, when a German psychiatrist named Alois Alzheimer studied a patient by the name Auguste Dieter, who had severe memory loss and behavioral changes. After she passed away, he examined her brain and found abnormal clumps and tangles of fibers. These findings are now considered key features of what we call Alzheimer's disease.
This discovery was especially groundbreaking because it showed that dementia is caused by physical changes in the brain, not just aging. Since then, research has helped us understand that dementia is a group of different conditions with unique effects on the brain. Now, there are several treatments that aim to slow cognitive decline in early-stage patients.
To summarize, dementia is an umbrella term for conditions that affect the brain. It develops gradually and it impacts millions of people and families worldwide. It changes how people think, remember, and live their daily lives, making support and understanding from loved ones so important.
Now that we've covered what dementia is and how it affects the brain, let's talk about how it's identified. While we won't go into personal medical advice, understanding the diagnostic process can help people recognize what signs doctors look for.
Dementia is usually diagnosed by healthcare professionals using a combination of methods. They often start by reviewing a person's medical history and asking about symptoms, like memory loss, confusion, or changes in behavior.
Doctors may also perform cognitive tests to assess memory, problem-solving skills, attention, and language abilities. According to the Mayo Clinic website, medical professionals often use imaging tools like MRI or CT scans to look at the brain and rule out other causes of cognitive changes.
It's important to remember that these evaluations help professionals understand what type of dementia might be involved. But dementia is complex. Different conditions can look very similar, especially in the early stages.
So let's go through a common multi-step clinical pathway for dementia diagnoses. First, the pen and paper check, or cognitive screening. This is a starting point and usually occurs at the GP's office. An example of this would be the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, or MoCA, and the Mini Mental State Examination, or MMSE. In this test, doctors map out where the brain is firing and where it's stalling by asking you to draw things, name animals, or remember words after distraction. The newest update to this test is the use of digital cognitive screeners. Instead of just a clipboard, patients can use tablets that measure not only the correctness of an answer, but the time it took to answer, which provides data points that are often more sensitive than the answer itself. A relatively new testing strategy from the mid-2020s is the use of blood tests. Doctors can now use blood tests like preclivity AD2 to look for specific proteins like beta amyloid and p-tau217. If these protein levels are high, the brain is likely struggling with Alzheimer's pathology specific. These tests are around 90 to 95% accurate and can even predict symptoms onset years in advance. Following blood tests and cognitive screening red flags, MRIs can further confirm suspicions. Instead of looking just for aging, doctors can look for atrophy or shrinkage in specific spots. A signature sign of Alzheimer's is the shrinkage of the hippocampus. In contrast, frontal lobe changes point towards frontotemporal dementia. While neuroimaging like CT scans are not routinely recommended, certain factors should be considered, such as being under 60 years of age at dementia onset, focal neurological symptoms, rapid progression of dementia, recent head trauma, use of anticoagulants, unusual symptoms, or gait disturbance. The newest change is AI-assisted diagnosis. Specialized software like the Harvard-developed Brain Imaging Adaptive Core, or Brain IAC, can scan MRIs and blood results. The AI can detect brain age by comparing your brain structure to a database of thousands of others to see if your decline is faster than it should be for your age, catching subtle patterns easily missed by humans.
Once dementia is identified, there are general treatment approaches that can help manage symptoms and support brain health. While treatments can't cure most types of dementia yet, they can slow progression or improve quality of life for some people. For example, some medications are designed to support memory and thinking in early-stage patients. Other treatments focus on managing symptoms like anxiety, sleep issues, or mood changes. Lifestyle factors, like staying physically active, eating a balanced diet, and engaging in social and mental activities, can also play an important role in supporting brain health.
A common treatment right now is lecanemab. While most historical treatments boosted brain chemicals to help you think a bit more clearly, lecanemab uses anti-amyloid immunotherapy. This specifically goes after amyloid beta protofibrils, the protein that form plaques in the brain and drive Alzheimer's. The drug essentially marks these plaques, so your own immune system can recognize them as trash and clear them out. Another update is in terms of delivery. Previously, patients had to go to a clinic every 2 weeks for an hour-long IV infusion. Since late 2025, the FDA has improved subcutaneous versions that allow patients to use a weekly autoinjector at home. making treatments more accessible. Modern treatment generally uses a variety of treatment methods. A common trio can include lecanemab, donepezil, and high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. Lecanemab serves as the modifier, removing underlying disease proteins, while donepezil boosts communication between remaining cells to optimize the situation. Finally, exercise through HIIT can help change lifestyle habits and increase brain resilience through increased blood flow. It must be noted, however, that these drugs are not miracle pills that come without risks. Since they are physically moving things out of your brain, they can cause ARIA, or amyloid-related imaging abnormalities, essentially tiny bits of swelling or microbleeds. So, because of this, MRIs are usually taken every few months to ensure that the brain is handling the changes safely.
Beyond treatments, research into dementia is constantly evolving. Scientists around the world are studying the brain to better understand why dementia happens, how it progresses, and how new therapies might work. Some areas of research focus on finding ways to prevent dementia, while others look at ways to slow down cognitive decline or reduce symptoms. Researchers are also exploring the biology of the brain, things like protein buildup, inflammation, and blood flow, which could eventually lead to more effective treatments.
Even though a complete cure doesn't exist yet, advances in research have already improved how we understand dementia, how it's diagnosed, and how people can live with it. Recently, in 2025, scientists have made important progress in diagnosing and tracking changes in the brain. Researchers at Johns Hopkins Medicine helped validate a new FDA-approved blood test that can detect early biomarkers of Alzheimer's disease. This type of blood test is less invasive and more accessible than older methods, and it helps doctors identify changes in the brain much earlier in the disease process.
All of these advances are happening right now, showing just how fast dementia research is moving forward. The field continues to grow every year, and each new discovery brings hope for better solutions in the future. Even though some of this science can sound complex, the key takeaway is simple. Understanding dementia and raising awareness are the first steps towards supporting those affected and appreciating the work being done to fight it.
For a bit of shameless advertising, you should check out our research reviews on our YouTube channel. We summarize recent research articles on dementia.
Now that we've talked about how dementia is diagnosed, as well as treatments and research, it's time to focus on care, community, and what you can do. While medical advances are important, living with dementia is much more than tests or medication. It's about the people, relationships, and environment surrounding someone affected.
Families, friends, and caregivers play a huge role in helping someone with dementia maintain quality of life. This can be as simple as supporting daily routines, offering reassurance, or just being patient and understanding when someone struggles to remember or communicate.
And community matters too. Friends, neighbors, local organizations, and even schools can help create a supportive and inclusive environment. Small gestures, such as checking in regularly or including someone in activities, can make a huge difference.
One of the first steps for families and caregivers is to find support. Organizations like the Alzheimer's Association provide a huge collection of resources for families and individuals living with dementia. They offer local programs, support groups, and online communities where people can share experiences and connect with others who understand what they're going through. The organization also has many educational articles about dementia that are tailored to help communities learn more.
And if you want direct guidance or someone to talk to, the Alzheimer's Association also has a helpline at 1-800-272-3900. Anyone can call for advice, support, or just to be heard.
Now, let's talk about everyday care for dementia patients. One of the most important aspects of care is keeping a routine. Consistency provides structure, familiarity, and a sense of independence, therefore reducing anxiety and confusion. For example, serving meals at the same time in the same place every day helps someone know what to expect. Similarly, Writing to-do lists or using calendars with events can give them a clear sense of what's coming up.
Other everyday care strategies include using a shower chair to prevent falls and allowing the person to do as much as possible on their own. This boosts self-esteem, helps maintain physical abilities, and reinforces a sense of independence. Even small daily activities, like helping with household tasks or preparing a snack together, provide a sense of purpose. Consistency and routine are key. Senior centers often notice that even minor changes in routine can be upsetting to residents or cause confusion.
Another idea is incorporating activities that stimulate creativity or motor skills, like coloring. For instance, we often visit our local assisted living and memory care center, Lighthouse Senior Living, and coloring is a very common activity. Coloring is not only fun, but also helps with relaxation, fine motor skills, and creative expression. Doing similar activities at consistent times can be calming and engaging. Other fun activities we've done at our center include bingo, baking, tea parties, caroling, and various crafts and cultural celebrations.
And routines aren't just about activities. They're also about how we communicate. When meeting someone with dementia for the first time, using a friendly term like friend can help establish trust and make the interaction more comforting. When interacting, you should always approach them from the front, so they can see you clearly. Age-related conditions like macular degeneration can reduce peripheral vision, making it hard to see someone coming from the side. Eye contact, smiling, and using their name all help establish connection.
Simple communication techniques like speaking slowly, asking clear questions, or giving a compliment can make interactions smoother and more positive. But as dementia progresses, even these strategies can become harder to use. People may ask the same question repeatedly, which can feel frustrating, but it's important to stay calm. Yelling, showing frustration, or saying phrases like, "Don't you remember?" can increase stress and anxiety.
Also, if the person living with dementia is confused, it's best to gently redirect the conversation. For example, if someone keeps asking a question over and over, you might give them a small task, like a puzzle or a coloring page. This helps them focus on something meaningful rather than the repeated question.
Validation is also important. In later stages, someone may bring up memories from the past, sometimes about people who have passed away. Instead of correcting them, acknowledge their feelings and gently redirect to a comforting or engaging activity, like food, music, or a puzzle. It's also great to occasionally ask for their help with a task. It gives them a sense of purpose and a feeling that they're needed.
Other helpful tools include dementia-friendly items, like a soft cat, dog, or baby doll. These can reduce anxiety and stress and inspire feelings of care, happiness, and connection. Along with these calming activities, keeping the body active is also important. Exercise is an essential part of daily life for someone with dementia. It doesn't have to be complicated. Short walks, household chores, and baking all provide physical activity. There are also specific exercise routines adapted for seniors, allowing them to maintain mobility while remaining seated.
For families dealing with dementia, it can be really tiring. It's hard to stay patient when your phone rings repeatedly in the middle of the night, or when the same questions keep coming up throughout the day. Feeling frustrated or even irritated doesn't make you a bad person. It's normal. What often stays with people later are not the tired moments, but the times when stress led to conflicts. That's why strategies like gentle redirection and setting clear boundaries are important. They help protect both you and your relationship.
Finally, I want to share a personal story that played a role in the founding of this project and really demonstrates how important dementia awareness is. My great-grandfather was a healer, a Chinese medicine practitioner, and acupuncturist who spent his life caring for others. My mom remembers him as this joyful, 5'6" man with a flowing beard and incredible long eyebrows. He lived in Shizhou, China, among huge mountains and gorgeous lakes. But when he was around 70, dementia settled in. We never got a formal diagnosis of the type, but the change was undeniable. He began trying to escape, climbing towards the mountain peaks, or even trying to jump through windows. At this time, his family did the only thing they knew how to do, which was to physically stop him. So every time he was confused, they replied with, "No, don't go up the mountain." Looking back, they realized they were fighting the symptoms without understanding the disease. They wished they had known about the redirection, how to meet him in his reality, rather than just barring the door. That's why we're talking about this today, so other families don't have to look back and wish they had a different toolkit.
So, to wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to summarize. Dementia is an umbrella term for conditions that affect the brain, memory, and daily life. It develops gradually, impacts millions of people worldwide, and changes how people think, remember, and interact with the world.
We talked about the importance of support from organizations like the Alzheimer's Association to everyday care strategies like keeping routines and encouraging independence. We also shared tips on communication, like staying calm, redirecting conversations, validating feelings, and even using activities to make life more engaging and comforting.
If you're inspired to act, there are lots of ways to help. Reach out to support organizations, check in on a family member or neighbor, volunteer, or simply start learning more about dementia. Every small step makes a difference.
And don't forget, this is just the beginning. In our next episode, we'll dive deeper into Alzheimer's disease, the most common type of dementia, and learn more about how it affects the brain and daily life.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you learned something new and that you feel inspired to support people living with dementia and the families around them. As always, you can find more resources on our website, Instagram, and YouTube. And feel free to contact us at forgetmenot.project.md@gmail.com.
From all of us here at Forget Me Not Project, we'll see you next time. And remember, let every memory bloom.